I'm working on this pretty little embroidered garden quilt today that my sister Arlene Jones pieced for me. And the first thing I'm going to do is do some stitch in the ditch. And then we're going to place a little design in this little sashing that's on right next to the floral here. So I want to divide this from the floral and place a little design inside of that too. So I place my ruler. I just brought up my thread and took a couple of security stitches there. Place my ruler right next, about 1/4 of an inch away from that line. You can see I'm stitching right in the ditch, but the ruler has to be 1/4 of an inch away. Now the foot is 1/2 inch, and so if I place my ruler 1/4 of an inch, then the needle goes right in on the seam. And I'm going to do a little E and an L design here. You see how quickly I can put that in there. It's just an L and an E, a big L, little E. There we go. And I'm just going to follow this ditch. Even though I've already stitched in that ditch, I'm going to follow that ditch right over here and place that same design in the little area over here on the other side of it. Here we go. Little E, big L. And I'm using the regulated stitch at about 12 stitches to the inch. And that allows me to stop and start if I need to stop or start. I don't have to worry about that stitch length. Now in this busy area, I wanted some real texture in there. I wanted to define that area, but it is going to be hard for it to show up. So I knew that I had to have something repetitive in there. So I'm just going to come in here like this and go around and make a circle in the middle. And I'm going to go around that circle about 3 times. And then I'm just going to do like a daisy all the way around and reach out into the areas with these petals that I need to, so that the entire rectangle is filled up with this daisy. So you'll see some of those petals are going to be long, and then when I'm on the short sides, they're going to be short. And I'll fill that in around like that. One more here, and then this will complete the rest of that petal. So that was all with one continuous line, and the more you can do with one continuous line, the better. So only one start and stop to do that entire area. Now I have a little area right here, and I did 2 different things. I really wanted to set this off. As you look at it, it's busy, it's got a lot of things going on, and so I felt like in the plain fabric, in the solid fabric, if I put something angular in there, it would really help set that off, and I think that's the effect that I got. So that's kind of the way I think when I do things. I'm just thinking out loud for you. This is a Greek key, but it's a triangle Greek key, so I'm just using my ruler. You can see I just place it there, and I do 1/4 of an inch away. Then I place it on the line. If I place it right on the line before, then I'm going to be 1/4 of an inch away. And I just keep going around like this, changing my ruler. Now notice that my ruler is always on the left side of my needle. Never cross your ruler over on the other side, because you don't want to run the danger of sewing your hand. There we go. You can see what a nice, neat look that gives. Now when I end, I'm going to take little stitches right along where I have already stitched. So, and those were in a row. Those were about 6 little stitches in a row, and they're very tiny stitches. Think of, in your mind, of about 15 to 20 stitches to the inch. Now in this start area, I did what I have named inside out. And I just kind of made it up, and it's just turned out to be such a good design element. So I start on the edge of the circle, and you can put this, or the edge of this triangle. You can put it in a circle, you can put it in a triangle, a square, any shape that you have, and it works in every kind of shape. So I just come out here like this, and I make a little hook, kind of like a fish hook. And then I do pattern meandering, which is no points. It's just reaching out with curves, reaching out with curves, reaching out with curves. And then I reach out to the area that I need to fill in, and then back to the outside of the hook, as I come around like this. And here again, I have to reach out into that area and back. So it's just back and forth with curves. Reach out there. And even in this little area, don't give up. Keep quilting, even in that little tiny area there, until you're back to where you started. Now with this color of thread, I have one more place that I want to put this orchid thread. And that's in this little border. And instead of putting a design in each of these little borders, I decided I would just get them both with one design. And this is really easy. Try this on paper. Do this on with paper and pencil first. And it's just little leaves, and I just swing over and then back. And I leave them open. I don't close them. You see, when I come back, I don't go right back to where I was. Come along like this. So you get that design in both sides, pink and purple, and it's really cute. It really goes with this embroidered garden. There we go. Now to finish, again, I take the little stitches along the side like that, move the machine over, go down in the same place, and trim my thread. So I can trim where I started and where I finished. So that finished that part. Now I want to show you the design that I did around the embroidery itself, and I need to just change thread, so I'll be right back. I've changed to the lemonade color of thread now so that I can complete what I want to show you around this embroidery work. But I thought I would draw it out a little bit so you have a real good idea of what I'm doing. We have our embroidery in the middle of the block, and it's probably an odd shape, so that's why I didn't draw a perfect circle. What I want to do is not just meander, not just echo, you know, the same old thing. So I decided to do feathers, but I wanted to do them a little bit more interesting too. So if you take your piece and you somehow divide it into fourths like that, and I'm going to use a blue pen on my quilt when I do that, then in the middle here, first of all, of course, I do have to go around the embroidery, but then I'm going to do a teardrop like this, and then I'm going to come out on top of that teardrop, trace that much back, and then come back over here. Each time I want to come back as close to this beginning part here as I can, and then I'll come out again, trace that part back, and then I can put a little one in there like that. So when we do the other side, it's going to look very similar like that, and if you want to put a little one in like that, you can. Now, if you don't feel comfortable doing this freehand, you don't need to worry, because you can just go to the website, and I provided the free pattern for you on the website. But let's stitch this out and see how this turns out. We first go down and bring up our thread. We have to get our bobbin thread up, and I'll take a couple little stitches there to start with, and then I will start going around my embroidery work. And this is just a loose interpretation of going around the embroidery work. I'm not trying to go around every single little fern here, although I know you could do that if that was your intention. Okay, and now I will cut this thread right there. And so now I've ended where I started. And I'm just going to loosely draw these divisions on here. And you could measure right to the middle of the square and make your little mark there, or you could put masking tape on the outside and mark those. So a lot of ways that you could mark. Now it's okay for me to follow this line again, so I get in the middle, because this is where I want to place that first teardrop, and then up over in the middle of it, and then back down, and up over in the middle, and then back down, and then a little feather there, and then again on the other side, same thing, and over. And you see that line that I've drawn kind of gives me a boundary. Now I come over here and I follow that over there, so I get right in the middle, up and over. It takes a little bit more thinking, you know, than just meandering, but it's going to turn out so much better that it's absolutely worth it. Out and over, and you can see that on the project, how pretty that feather turned out. And it isn't that hard to do. All you have to do is concentrate a little bit. There we go. Come back to that middle every time. And then just follow your project back around. There we go. And it's so much fun when you get finished with these and they look so pretty. They're amazing. Follow that around, come back over. And one more feather there. There we go, and we have finished that. Now, if you wanted to, you could certainly go in with the different colors and go in and through and around the embroidery on the inside. These aren't big enough that they're going to matter, but if you have a large embroidery area, you kind of need to tack down inside. Now, I have one more design that I want to place on the quilt, and it's going to be in this area right here, and I'm going to do that with the computerized quilting machine. So I'm going to change thread, and I'll be right back. I have my purple thread on now, and so we're going to let the computerized machine do the design. I've already got it placed. It goes down and takes a stitch for me, and I bring up my bobbin thread, and we'll let it stitch out and watch it complete this project. This is one of my own designs. We call it Feathered Flower, and you'll see why. I didn't stop the machine to cut the thread, I just held it out of the way because I knew it wasn't going to stitch over that thread. As soon as it's out of this area, then I'll cut it. I've done this pattern many times using the laser light. And so it's fun to see the machine stitch it without me having to worry about it. Cut my bobbin thread off. And you see that cute little flower? It's really tiny. I felt like putting this tiny design around the edges of this quilt would also make it look like an embroidered look. So it goes very well with this quilt. It just completed my tie-offs for me, so I can bring my thread up and cut it, and my little quilt is ready.